Hey folks, what's up? It's Mike. If you are hearing or watching this from April 8th to April 22nd, you need to head over to sunsetlakecbd.com and take advantage of their big 420 sale. If you use coupon code 420, you will receive 30% off everything site-wide. Orders over $100 will get a free 20-count jar of Vibe gummies, and 4.20% of proceeds will be donated to the Great Last Prisoner Project. This sale goes till April 22nd, and if you've been on the fence about CBD, now's a great time to try it. Plus, you'll be raising money for a great cause. So head on over to sunsetlakecbd.com to save 30% from April 8th to April 22nd. See their site for additional terms and conditions. What's up, folks? Welcome back to another episode of Dented Cans. It is your host, Mike Fenoya. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if you are, please rate, review, share, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on the socials. It's at MikeFinoia. Very excited to bring you today's episode. Stoked to have our guest, Neal Brennan. You know him from Half Baked. You know him from Chappelle Show. His specials on Netflix, Blocks, 3 Mics. He's got a new one out now called Crazy Good. And it's really cool to have him here. I learned a lot from Neal, just chatting with him. He was on the bonfire once with me and just hanging at the clubs and kind of just talking about mental health. I learned a lot of stuff from him about alternative routes to dealing with some of the stuff we deal with. I'm pretty open about my stuff here, and we get into it on this episode. So thank you, Neal, for joining, and everybody check out his new special, Crazy Good, on Netflix, and we'll see you soon. Peace. Neal, thank you for hanging out today. And also I want to say thank you for answering my email. That's the most important part.
At the end of the day, even if this thing only lasts 2 minutes, I answered your email. And that's really something.
It's genuinely you said it in an interview with LA Times the other day, was it? That the worst part about having a podcast is the humiliating, asking guests to do it.
Yeah, it sure is.
It's the fucking worst, dude.
It's awful. Damn near unbearable.
Yeah. And Molly from San Francisco connected us, and I had to write an email that was kind of do I do care of? Do I?
Yeah,
hey,
it's still a lot of and when you get her up to CC, it's all pretty interesting.
It really is. It really is. But I'm stoked to have you here, and really glad to. I want to say thanks first off. We hung out at on the bonfire, Soder and Okerson's.
Yeah, no, I thought I was I know
XM.
Mike Fenoya, no? Yeah.
Yeah, we've hung and we've done shows together, Cellar and whatever. But you're in the Mount. Mount Olympus, Mount Sertraline, I guess I'd call it, of certain comics who have kind of were a savior to me in learning about different ways to combat mental health stuff and talk about it and make it funny and make it approachable. And hanging out that day at the Sirius XM studio was just the beginning, but you were somebody that was pivotal in my foray into ketamine and large dose psilocybin in conjunction with therapy for mental health. So just a massive thank you.
How'd you do the large dose psilocybin?
I did it one-on-one with I hate saying a trip sitter, but someone who was kind of like a guide where we talked beforehand about some intention and initiative that I had, some stuff I needed to get done. And we went one-on-one in the fall, upstate New York at a karate dojo. And
why not?
Perfect. And she curated a nice playlist and it was serene and peaceful one-on-one. And I got so much done. I went in quick, I got out fast, and I got everything that I needed out of it. And that was the beginning of me kind of doing psychedelics responsibly.
So in quick and out fast, how big was the dose?
It was 4 grams, and it was Golden Teacher, which I've found to be that's my dark roast. That's my, And what I mean by got in and out quick was I felt like I heard this from folks that have done hypnotherapy with me as well, where I'm a good candidate. I'm already 1 foot into the next world. So I'm fast to go in and out. So I got in and got so much done and felt such an incredible presence in the room. And she was there only when she needed to be. You know, I reached out to her at one point and she kind of grabbed my hand and came out and we talked and she's like, "You're done already?" Like I was fine, lucid, perfect. But I took enough mushrooms where I should have been, you know, fucked up for another couple hours.
So it was 2 hours or something? How long was it?
I was the afterglow was probably a good, 6 hours or so, but I had a hard, good psychedelic journey about 2 hours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was great. And I had some real deep stuff that, when you go in and you kind of have this here's my intentions, but you don't necessarily always get what you want, but you 100% get what you need.
Yeah. There are these sort of bromides like that I think can give people the wrong, it's not even as linear as what you just said. Meaning you might not get what you need. You know what I mean? Like you're always, whenever you come to Huckleberry Farms, it's like, no, you might not. You might not. You might lose your mind. But which is fine. I just think we should tell people that so that they're not like, why am I not getting what I need? It's a wild card. And I think the thing of you get what you need is a way of cleaning it up.
It's summarizing it for sure.
But it also not summary it's a little dishonest. It's like it doesn't always have a happy ending, doesn't always have clear conclusions. It doesn't have it's not the tidy ending voiceover of and I learned that day that my father was my best friend or any of that stuff. It can be terrifying and not work at all in the way you want it to work.
Yes.
So just know that. So it often does work, but it can go a lot of different ways.
The first time was so unbelievable, and I went back a second time with her, same setting, same everything, and I tried to control it.
Yeah.
And it was to the silly shit of last time the Bluetooth speaker was to my left ear. Why is it now at my right foot? And she's like, come on now, what do you do? And that trip was horrible. I remained in
but that's what I'm saying. Did you get what you needed, Mike? You didn't get anything.
Well,
or you got a bad 4 hours or whatever.
That's what I got, and that's what I think. So what I meant, in that sense, it's kind of I still came out with a lesson, but it wasn't anything. And listen, I'm not I'm not going into it going every time I'm going to have some profound. You know what I mean? I've done it enough that it's no, sometimes you're just going to literally just have to shit the whole time and you can't get up. Mm-hmm. And it's just a weird feeling, but the going in with these intentions, it's hanging on to it too much can also kind of bog you down. You got to just be ready for what happens.
Yeah. And any amount of reading about it or any amount of podcasting or whatever people watch. And then it's you can't, all this stuff. It's not every experience is different for every person.
Yeah.
So it can often be what I would say is often positive, but I don't like giving people the misunderstanding that you're gonna get it made. No, I'm not doing that.
Did you have I remember hearing you talk about ketamine and TMS and all of the, you did a lot of things, and I think that was one of the lessons, I guess I would say, or hopes that I got from listening to you and bullshitting with you about stuff was that if SSRIs don't work, if TMS or ketamine or whatever, everything's different for everybody. EMDR, you threw everything at the wall.
Yeah,
you literally threw everything at it.
Yeah, and that's another thing of it's a bit like relationships where people go like, well, relationships are hard work. So you just go like, well, then I'm going to grind it out on this for 10 years. If you do SSRIs for 3 or 4 months and it doesn't work, then you're not supposed to be on that medication. Like it's just not, or not even, it's not even that mystical. It's like that one doesn't work for you. And if you try TMS, if you try EMD, like none of them didn't work. Like I will say when I did the ketamine infusion, I didn't like that at all. Now, having said that, in the intervening couple of years, the last 3 or 4 years, I've done ayahuasca, one dose of 5-MeO-DMT, which was insane. But since I've done ayahuasca, mushrooms and MDMA are both ayahuasca now. A thing happens sometimes where if you do ayahuasca and you connect in that way, everything becomes ayahuasca. Any sort of anything in that, it just becomes like a very quick God connection that's sort of flavored by the whatever the other substances. So since I've done ayahuasca and DMT, I've also done mushrooms and I've done MDMA, which is and I made up with ketamine, and I did ketamine a couple months ago, and that was ayahuasca and great and like helpful in the way that I think it's supposed to be, and not like my original ketamine from maybe 8 years ago was not, maybe 9 years ago was not a good experience. It was just kind of like, I don't know. It's just in a hospital room. It just was shitty. It's like it looked like in an emergency room or something. And but now that I've done ayahuasca and DMT, everything works for me. And I even in 3 mics, I think I said, or no, maybe blocks. I said MDMA doesn't work for me, but it does now, and it works like beautifully. It works like really. It works. It's like a good experience when I in like the 6 hours, but I've been able to. It's probably compounding all the things I've done, but I can bring it with me now. I can bring it with me. Like so cool. I can bring it with. It's with me all the time.
That's so great.
Yeah, it's like it is a best case scenario, but there was a lot of difficulty along the way, and it wasn't like you got what you need. No, I fucking broke my brain. I like really in sort of in the DMT was, I did like a little flash of it in blocks, but even that doesn't get at how terrifying it was. And there was a couple ayahuascas that were like, I'm not taking any lesson from this. This is just very difficult and very unpleasant. Like thinking that I'm in the middle of the rapture. Like, what did I get from that? Did I get what I needed? Did I need to know that the rapture was at hand? Some
you don't know yet.
Some biblical,
you don't know yet, but
yeah, Mike, there you go. Really mislead people.
There's a tool in your van.
Yeah, really mislead
there's a tool
people.
In your van.
Yeah, really mislead people. These are all
tobacco when it comes to psychedelics.
Yes, all these are panaceas. No,
absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely
so
not.
I had
right.
like severe difficulties at times, but they were constructive long term in terms of I kind of think a lot of my neurons got recalibrated. In some ways it's I say a lot of these experiences are, I'm not saying journey. I will not say journey. I just refuse to say journey.
No.
A lot of these experiences are you're getting your software updated, and the thing about when you do a software update, the computer falls asleep Whereas when you're getting your software updated in these experiences, you're awake, and you don't know what's happening.
It's insane.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah,
and from years and years of doing it recklessly, and I would say by recklessly, what I meant is like I would at a concert, drinking beers, take acid, or eat mushrooms and go to whatever, hike around and smoke weed and have fun. Not by myself after, at 9 a.m, with a purpose, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. So for me, this was a thing where, and you hit it earlier with, if you're taking an SSRI and it's not working, well, it's not going to work. Try another one, right? And I had a doctor that basically, it was such a pill pusher of an experience where he was like, so do you ever get nervous on stage? And I'm like, no. And he's like, you ever heard of a beta blocker? Would you, here, just take it in case you need it. And he would just give me like, do you ever have trouble at paying attention? Here's Ritalin.
Yeah.
You ever get nervous? Here's Xanax. You ever, and he just liked Lexapro, and it made everything worse for me, and took myself off of it so I could do as much mushrooms as I could, because I got a ton of fear. Like, I think that a lot of my anxiety I end up like setting up from worst case scenario. And then I think everything is like, that's where life is operating from, is my worst case scenario,
Yeah.
And not being able to kind of like delineate that from reality. And that's what got really bad. So I went to a psychiatrist and I wrote down everything that I was dealing with, things that I'd gone through, what I wanted to feel, all the medicines I took. And she's like, you have PTSD, you have treatment-resistant depression, you have this, that, the other thing. She goes, I think we should try ketamine. I did it off a Frisbee once at like a concert,
Sure.
But we did IV intravenous ketamine. I was so anxious. The first day I went, Neal, the needle hit my hand and I blacked out, passed out on the floor. Not even any ketamine, just vasovagal, which is like you pass out from needles. Yeah. And I'm laying on the ground apologizing that like I'm not healing right, And I was to the point where I was like, I asked my wife to leave me. I was just like, I can't, like, I felt like I was just a burden on everyone and I didn't want to leave the house and it was terrible. And I felt immediate relief from the ketamine in that sense of like where you said like the computer shuts off, like we get to turn the engine off. I had this thing where I was able to kind of like put down the bags, put down the concrete that I was carrying for just a second and be like, oh shit, like I don't have to feel the way. I feel like I got addicted to anxiety.
Well, you also think that you're supposed, it's like you're a man or you're a heart, you can bear it. And it's like, I can bear anything. It's just a waste of a life.
Exactly.
It doesn't, I don't think there's any badge of courage or strength by enduring shitty brain mechanisms repeated over decades. There's just no, and even the like the thing of like in the 90s, like Charles Bukowski and all those guys, like and like it's like I'm not impressed that you got drunk and stoned. I just don't. It's not interesting to me. I don't even like doing stand-up. I don't really drink or do, but I don't think there's anything cooler about writing something drunk or writing something high or writing. It's like people go like, when you did Half Baked, were you guys stoned the whole time? No, I wasn't. Well, we were writing. Dave wasn't either. Like when we were writing it, it's like, no, we're just fucking working. Do you have an imagination? Then exercise it. No, I need to put special juice in. Well, then you're barely an artist.
100%. It's like when you hear about Kerouac, right? Like 7 years after On the Road, people are showing up at his house and he's like a drunk Republican. Like, get off my lawn. It's over. Like you don't need it. It's fucking,
Yes. It's not impressive.
No. But I found that it's, it's almost become like a lane assist for me, where when I find myself going off into the wrong lane, I kind of beep, 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 and like go back in. And that's what ketamine therapy, I'm probably on now, I'd say like about 37 or 38 38 infusions with ketamine, and I did the first
How often
4
do you do
or
it?
5 weeks. You go twice a week. Well, now I do intramuscular monthly.
What's
I go
that
once a
mean?
month. At IM, so it's like a vaccine, like you just get it one shot in your arm, and it's what do you call
Okay, so you get it in your arm,
intravenous, no,
and
like,
do you
pour.
have to like be then you're on ketamine for a couple hours, or it's just a
It's
slow drip
it's-
all the
it's-
time?
No, this is like all at once. It's more of a rocket ship type. Like it's liftoff. Like, so you kind of start doing more. So I'll back up. It was more the first 35 or so, 36 were, like you said, they were very sterile, very medical setting. You go in, you get your pulse oximeter, your IV, your the sleeve that does your blood pressure. You're in a room by yourself in a hospital bed, and they pump it through. I have my music of choice. That's really the only thing that's making it mine, and then that's 10 other rooms of the same thing going on. Those people got to sit in leather recliners, but since I passed out, I have to be in a hospital bed because now I'm a fall risk or whatever, right? So that's hard you have great experiences, but I got no one to talk to. So I'm kind of just like grasping at like, please remember this. But I never remember. And this experience is great because it's more of conducive to like the talk therapy type setting where it's like I'm in a room, there's a bed with a blanket and a mask, headphones or Bluetooth if I want the music played, and there's a nurse practitioner and a therapist, and I do breath work. While I'm doing the breath work, I get the shot, take 3 deep breaths, and by the 3rd deep breath, it's like lift off. And it's about 90 minutes of travel, like good, like, I'm off, I'm out.
Where are you? What are they? Are they all similar, or it's like a different tone every time?
What I'd say is similar is the lack of color. I think it's a very kind of like sandy type, like earth tone. I don't know, like a desert stormed kind of like, it's not bright, it's not vivid, it's not like other psychedelics where.
Well, that's interesting because that's not like when I did ketamine 2 months ago, and it felt like a snow plow, like just a whiteout snow plow, but it was like plowing my interior consciousness.
Yeah,
and not even in a way of like, I'm being erased. It just was like it. I don't even know. I clear. I don't know what it was clearing out, but that was the feeling I got.
Yeah. I'm always in motion. That's one thing that's always been similar throughout every single ketamine experience with me is that I'm always in motion. I'm always like kind of slowly. It's like it's a small world or something.
You know what's
right?
funny?
Like
that was what the first time I did it was like. The time I did it like 8-9 years ago I literally said being in like a little cart in It's a Small World After All.
Yeah.
And like, but there were like machine elves and it was kind of purpley and matrixy back then. So it was like very, very different than what it was a few weeks ago.
I think one of the things so wait, when you did it a couple weeks ago, was it the oral or was it?
It was, listen to this, Mike, I snorted it.
Oh, old school.
Yeah. Snorted it like a powder, which I've only done cocaine once. So it was like, okay. And maybe that made it work better or differently, or maybe it was like very good stuff or what. You never know, you would know because you're in a clinical setting. You know what you're getting, but and then a part of me thinks it's like different every time for every person. Maybe if I snorted it in a doctor's office or got it IV'd in a doctor's office, it would have just had a different effect. So I don't know. And that's another thing where it's like, it is all inconsistent, but you don't need to, it's in some ways, a lot of these experiences for me, I don't know what it's like for you, but a lot of it is a bit like, this is none of my business. Whatever you got to do, I'm not gonna try to control it. just whatever you got to do. And I've actually said at times on ayahuasca, like, do you have a different system that we could try? Because this is grueling to endure sometimes.
Yeah, I understand what you mean. Like, you almost kind of have this, I feel like it's medical in a sense of like when you're going in for like dental surgery or whatever, and it's just like, okay, there's that shut off in your brain where you go like, I'm not here anymore. Like, just do what you need to do. I'm here to breathe. I'm here to keep the blood going to my extremities, but I'm out mental. Like, I'm checked out. Just go in and clean what you have to clean. And I trust you. Here's the keys. And I think that surrender thing is extremely hard for me. I don't know if that's always been there for you, but that in the beginning, even with mushrooms, even with ecstasy in the 90s, where I would have to, break a piece off and eat it and make sure I'm not dying and then take 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I always kind of had to have like my stamp of like, I have control. And early on, that's why I think booze was always like important with psychedelics to me, because then it's like, who cares? Let's just stay up and drink the keg, we're laughing around it. And that's what all acid was. But now it's this thing with ketamine in particular, where I almost kind of leave it where when I was going in the beginning, I would have to go twice a week for the first 5 weeks. Monday and Thursday, 9:00 in the morning. And it was, you take those GAD-7 tests, the generalized anxiety disorder tests that are like never, seldom, always, and my score and my weight would determine the ketamine dosage. And I would schedule cognitive behavioral therapy right after, because the doctor I was with didn't allow me to bring a therapist, or they didn't provide one. So like, while I was still kind of open, I would have these, CBT therapies. And that, I think, was the 1-2 punch. This thing is not like you don't just do ketamine or I don't know about, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I just end up coming home feeling like one of those cartoons where like the lines are just swirling around your head if I don't get to talk about what I experienced,
Yeah. I've had both experiences where like I know what you're talking about, and at the same time, I've had experiences where I haven't really talked to anyone about my ketamine experience a couple months ago. But I remember it, and I remember it wasn't there was nothing to discuss. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, but I get how you kind of want to lock it in by telling somebody else. But like, I mean, the thing I got from ketamine 2 months ago was like, have some respect for yourself. I don't need to tell anyone that. No, you know what I mean? Like, so that was like my big takeaway there was like, have some respect for yourself, So,
yeah. Wow.
So
you got what you needed, Neal. You got what
Wait
you needed.
a minute. What? So, but I wanted to learn how to play chess. Wait, are you saying? Yeah. So
I want to learn too. Do you not know how to play chess?
No, I'm just kidding.
I need to learn.
I'm saying that, again, that I understand the thing of like needing to share. And in ayahuasca circles, everyone shares at the end, which I like because it's like a little bit of group therapy.
Sure.
But at the same time, I can argue both, but I can also see the constructiveness of going to CBT after ketamine.
Man. Yeah. So current cocktail, I'd say. So I hit like a place at the end of May of 21 where all the doors fell off, like everything. I was a mess. It was just terrible, and fear and panic and so on. And that's when I started doing the ketamine treatments and CBT and a little tiny baby, little taste of Zoloft, just a little pinch, 75 milligrams, which isn't a lot. And that helps. That's like my perfect cocktail. Now, right now I feel phenomenal. for the first time really ever, and I know you do too, because you've been saying you're happy lately. And is this something that, like, do you sometimes feel uncomfortable being happy?
It's not, well,
after years.
I know what you're saying. Like, it goes back to that Bukowski thing, or like, what's a real, I used to call it, like, people thought I had a New York attitude, but it turns out I was just clinically depressed.
Yes, totally.
And I've never gotten jokes out of ruminating. I've never gotten jokes out of like the really bad mental habits I have. And so I don't, the question you're asking, like, are you, I don't, it is an interesting way to go through life where you're not scanning for threats.
Yeah.
Like that's our, and they talk about, like, on the savannah, we'd all be, as animals, we'd all be scanning for threats or storms or cheetahs or whatever. And now, and our brains are still sort of programmed to do that. And we have locks, we have guns. Our bodies don't really know that. And so you scan for, and then people like you and I will scan for social threats or emotional threats or cause for anxiety threats. And so there is an adjustment to, I do a thing now from MDMA, actually. So MDMA made me, I had an experience at MDMA last August or September, I think August. And after, and I was able to forgive all my enemies. And I was like, how was I able to do that so easily on MDMA? And it was because I was flooded with dopamine and oxytocin and serotonin, right? So when I have those chemicals on hand, I can be loving and pro-social and constructive toward me, toward other people, and not get hot. And I was like, why did I? And it's like, because when you're on MDMA, you have all those chemicals. Normally, walking around, I have cortisol and adrenaline.
Yes.
And the thing that happens from cortisol and adrenaline is you view the world as through righteousness and justice and fairness and like the constructive version, and also a lot of anger and judgment and hatred and vitriol and rumination and the lack of forgiveness, all pretty much all negative, right? And so I started to realize, like, I just need to not pay attention to what my brain is telling me, because most of my brain just has cortisol and adrenaline, and I just have to like kind of CBT it and be like, no, I don't acknowledge that these thoughts aren't even the difference between MDMA and regular me. Made me realize, like, I don't even have a fixed belief about anything. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like I go from like, the most right-wing punitive person normally around social in relationships. And then I do MDMA and I'm the Mr. Criminal Justice Reform. People, we have to allow people to grow and change. And I think if we just do treatment instead of punishment, and you realize, like, what I call a personality is just chemicals. So I've been approaching it that way and been encouraging the positive parts of my brain. And I've been doing it via gratitude, which is the corniest shit in the world. But I've masculinized it. It's a gratitude checklist, not a journal.
Okay.
Nothing. It's not a journal. Couldn't be further from a journal. It's a checklist where I would write the positive facts of my life. We're not even my life is exceedingly positive, right?
Yeah.
By every metric. And so, but my brain was writing science fiction about, like, this person and you got fucked and that person doesn't respect you. Why don't they put you, why is the algorithm? And I'm being shadow banned, which is the greatest paranoid. What would a paranoid schizophrenic person say? If their social posts weren't being engaged by a lot of people. I'm being shadow banned. Anyway, so I was doing that, and then I was talking about Islam with Rainn Wilson, the actor, and he goes, and I said about Islam, like, they pray 5 times a day, which is like kind of about the right amount. Like, you're gonna forget. You forget about God almost immediately. It's the Catholic version of that joke is there's a church on every corner because that's how long church lasts. Meaning, like, you leave church and you're like, I'm a good, and then by the end of the block, you're like, fuck everyone. And then you see church, you're like, you know what? I'm a good, there's God, whatever. So I've been
the first yellow light, you're like, fuck this.
So I've been doing a gratitude checklist 4 times a day. And I have it in my phone, checklist 10, I think it's 10, 2, 6, and 10. Takes about 40 seconds. Takes 40 seconds, but it affects the overall ecosystem because then the negative thoughts become the outlier. Instead, they become the exception. Instead of the rule, they become the exception. And then you see them and you're like, none of your friends are even here anymore, bro. Like, you might as well get out of here.
Now, has that gotten to the point with you where, like, when you see the alarm that's like, hey, gratitude, the 2 p.m. gratitude checklist, do you have that brain that kind of does like, okay, gratitude checklist, like, take your vitamins? Sure,
I don't. The of course, like, the extra queer thing about it is like you want to do it. You kind of crave it. If you haven't done it, you're like, what's wrong? Fuck, I forgot, or I ignored it, or whatever. And the brain wants to ignore, but I not even ignored it. I don't know. One day this week, I only did it twice. So that's a bad day.
You felt the difference?
Well, but again, that's a bad day. Really, writing about gratitude twice is a bad day. Like, that's still a pretty good day. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So I don't remember the exact question, but there is the optimism thing. Yeah, and you're not gonna believe it, Mike. I've written jokes as an optimistic person that are as good as the negative person, and I've written some of your favorite sketches were written on Zoloft or not, or some of your favorite stand-up of mine may have been on nothing. It's all, of course, may have been a post ayahuasca or whatever. Like, so the idea that somehow, to me, it's a weakness that I can only write negative, or it's like, nah, I don't, at this point, it's a reflex. It's not, it's like the brain, you are what you do repeatedly is the phrase I've heard. So I've been repeatedly thinking of premises for 30 plus years. I'm not going to, I wasn't doing it because I was predisposed to negativity. That was maybe a part of it, but not really. And then, I mean, I don't want to say that the special that's coming out on Tuesday, April 9th, 2024 is my best one, but it's the strongest I've ever been as a comedian, and I did it on nothing. Wow. I mean, I did it on whatever, MDMA every couple months and ayahuasca every couple months and whatever, but it wasn't. And again, that doesn't mean the other ones were weak or shitty or whatever. It's just this thing of like, I'm this fixed person and I'm going to protect this character at all costs. I don't even care if I do stand-up anymore. I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't want to be,
I don't want to be
a thing. But the thing that I just described is most people is the thing of like protecting, even think about how you approach an argument. Like, a lot of the underlying impetus is I don't want them to think I'm the kind of person that, or whatever. it's all like some weird like playable character ethos, and it's not
so
helpful
layered too. Right. And what's so funny too, to your point, is that like, you know, I've been putting a lot of pressure on myself lately about, you know, I put out a special, now I'm out doing, you know, trying to get new material together. And in the meantime, I've had a lot of really, you know, life-changing shit go on. And in the, you know, therapy and in dealing with shit and family stuff and a lot of stuff. And I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself that I have to talk about that on stage. And I'm like, no, I don't. I'm realizing that like I'm squeezing that orange so much, but there's like a whole basket of fruit over here I'm not even fucking looking at.
It's not
like,
a good position to be in writing from stress, I realized. Like, because I got a special coming out Tuesday, and I was doing a lot of spots at the store and the comedy store, and I was like, I didn't have enough material. It was just stressing me out because I want to only do new material. I don't want to do them that's on the special and whatever, like that dumb sort of 90s New York ethos. And
totally.
And so I was able to just stopped putting in at the store for a couple of weeks, and I wrote good jokes, and I'm still, again, when I said I don't care about being a comedian, I really love being a comedian, but I'm not whatever. I'm not going to be, it doesn't define me as much as it did 2 years ago or 4 years ago. But yeah, like thinking that you have to do, just what kind of life do you want to have? Because it doesn't matter. No one's going to go, do you see Fenoya? Yeah, but he didn't talk about his personal growth. So
right.
why is he even doing stand-up? Or, you know, it's this idea that anything or anyone's paying attention to you or your process is just not true.
Course. It's so silly.
I don't think it's true for the most famous comedian in the world. Like, I don't even know who the most famous comedian in the world, probably Chris or Dave or what. I don't give a shit about their process, I don't give a shit. They're both very close friends of mine. I don't give it. It's like, whatever. Yeah. Are you having fun? Are you enjoying yourself? Are you writing good stuff? Or not? Are you Mike enjoying life? Because none of the other shit matters. And if you don't believe me, go on the New York Times obituaries. That's always that could be a form of therapy. That could be a therapy modality of like, just let's look at the obituaries and see what you think of this person's great accomplishments. A guy who invented a very important thing, and you're like, so long, old man.
Later, dude. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. Thanks for your
I thought you were already dead. Crumple, throw it away. So that's how meaningful these lives are to other people.
It's so ridiculous. You're right. And it's so freeing to be able to kind of go like, it doesn't matter. I think I was explaining to someone that all I want is to feel it doesn't matter. Like when I'm in my most, transcendental meditation, finally when that works, float tanks where I'm hitting that point where I'm happy, it doesn't matter is like what plays in my head. That's like my happy place, is when everything doesn't matter, when it's just things weigh what they're supposed to weigh, things mean what they're supposed to mean. They have the length of my attention that they deserve, and on they go. It's not these long drawn out days of ruminating. And it was hard for someone to understand what I meant by like, it doesn't matter is my dream. And I love that feeling on psychedelics or after, where I have that realization where it's like, oh yeah, fucking none of this shit.
Right. What
matters.
I've gotten to, which is like in some ways terrifying. It's almost like too Buddhist, where I'm like, I don't even know what it means to have accomplished a dream. You know what I mean? Like I can tell my story to myself of like, you were a doorman and no one cared about you. And then you started writing with Dave and everyone said he was doing everything. And then you did 3 Netflix specials, which so few people have, and you fucking did it. And then I go, okay. I don't even know what that says about me. I don't know what it means. You know what I mean? Like, what? Okay, cool.
I know exactly what you mean.
Like, so I accomplished a bunch of shit. I literally fulfilled my dreams, and I don't want to think it was. I said the other day to a friend of mine, it was meaningless but not pointless. Meaning, you know, the days are pretty long. You got to do something with your time.
Yeah, totally.
And what the meaning of Neal Brennan. You know, like what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean? It doesn't mean, like, it's not a trend that they can cover. And like, youngest of 10, what do a youngest of 10 people do when they write? Like, there's none of it's meaningless. Or I'm sorry, none of it's meaningful. And you know, what's funny is because I talk about having done what I call medicine, the cops call drugs. I try to be extra cogent in interviews so people can go like, oh, he must have forgotten that word because of all the drugs. So there's my meaning. But yeah, just what is it? This is, I'm not important. Not important.
Yes.
You know, it's like people talk about legacy and posterity. And it's like, I love comedy. I haven't watched Richard Pryor in 25 years. I love you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who loves comedy more than me and had found more meaning, whether it was faulty or not, in it. And I don't care about old comedians. So why is anyone going to care about me? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, maybe a person doing a one-man show in 30 years will watch one of my shows. That's like 3 people, you know? So in the meantime, Neal, enjoy yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. It's so hard to do sometimes, and it's so...
Oh, it's very hard to do. That's why I have a journal. That's why I have my checklist. My very masculine checklist.
Start doing that. Hey, it's the plank challenge of gratuity.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's important too is, like, you know, I had a very, you know, those memorable, I've been trying to talk about it a little bit on stage where it's like, nobody goes, man, I had a fucking amazing realization on Lexapro the other day. Like, no one comes out of, like, you know, CVS, like, holy shit, this Prozac, I just saw God on Prozac, you know.
I thought you were going to do the bit with alcohol, which could be a better premise. Because everyone, meaning like alcohol, how useless alcohol is versus like, well, I just drink. And you're like, no one comes out of like, dude, I had 14 Bud Lights last night and whatever.
So God. Yeah, no, I was thinking about, like, one of the more, like, imprinted on my head experiences in that first big mushroom trip was that, like, there's love and fear, and those are my 2 choices. Okay, like, I can either operate from love or fear, and I think all my life I operated from fear, and I was never really open to the love. Like, I was the type of kid that, like, I was the oldest of 4. My parents split when I was 2 months old, then got back together when I was 8, remarried each other, and had 3 more kids.
Well, that's confusing.
So I was kind of like, yeah, a little bit. I was the best man in my parents' second wedding. So that was like, it was weird. But I was always the kid. Like, if I got something as a surprise.
And you got your dad a hooker too at the bachelor party, which I found distasteful. But
yeah, absolutely. And then I took pictures and sent them to my mom with. So I was trying to sabotage that shit. But I was never open to. I never believed in, like, love as like a real thing. Like, I never thought, like, it was just something you had to do or say. And once I, like, experienced it full-fledged on, you know, mushrooms, and it was, like, bigger than I could, you know, whatever, I realized, like, oh yeah, when you're operating from love, fear doesn't stand a chance. Like, it's just, it blows it away. It's like that scene in Waterboy when, like, visualize an attack and Coach Klein's looking across and it's, you know, the bad coach with a baby head. Like, that's all of a sudden somehow where I was able to look at the things I fear and I'm like, oh, it's not even, it doesn't matter. It's not real. And in that moment of, the beautiful thing about psychedelics is when earth clock goes away, right? It doesn't matter what time it is. Like, you can get a millennia worth of, change done in like 5 Earth
or
minutes,
even just the awareness of that the magnitude of it.
Oh, it's the
can
best.
be
it's so freeing.
Own, it can be its own sort of treatment. Meaning like you don't have to get a direct message or download or whatever. It can just be like, just being around that scale is, I think, is right. Good for perspective.
So good. And I remember just coming out of that, like, I felt like I went through, like I was doing my taxes, like my mental taxes, where I'm like, all right, that's love, that's fear, that's love, that's fear. And I compartmentalized everything. And I had a chance to sort of look at how much time I've been wasting from fear. And if I could just like take another angle, another look at these things, comedy, career, am I being a good husband? Am I, am I letting people down? Am I this, that, all the shit, that constant chatter, that's just fear talking. And to put a spin on it from another, look at it from another side, absolute like game changer, and that was kind of my takeaway that has stuck with me years later. I'm still thinking about that almost on a daily basis, where if I start to get hot-headed and frustrated and depressed, it's like, oh, this is fear. This is nothing but fear. Yeah. It's just me fearing that I'm fucking up or something, or I'm letting someone down. And I think that's just that imprint, that constant, it
was helpful. It was constructive when you're, the thing I always found, one of the things I found scary about childhood is like, everyone's fucking bigger than you.
Yes.
So anyone can just decide to kill you.
Right, totally.
And so
there's nothing you can do about it.
To say nothing of the fact that I grew up around alcoholism and violence and like playing defense against that preemptively, and like having that be my approach to life. It's been, I've made a bunch of money and success, but the getting away from a philosophy that's useless at this point, it's like just wearing fucking a chainmail everywhere you go. And it's like, dog, you're not a knight, and it's not the year 1400. Like, yes, but I shall not be vanquished. No, you can still be vanquished. That somebody could shoot you. I mean, if you really want to get into it, you look stupid, and it's not helping. Is the bottom line.
No, exactly.
So
yeah. I want to ask you about. So Ken Kesey was always. I went and spent time with Kesey before he died in Oregon, and he's always been like a hero of mine. I love his writing and the psychedelic stuff that he did. But he said in an interview one time that nothing comes without a price, So like you do these, you do handfuls of acid, you do this, you do that. It's going to come with a price. Do you feel any price? Do you feel any kind of lack of memory? Do you feel any kind of like, what's that word
again? No, I don't. Honestly, I don't. I mean, the thing that there's been no downside other than the experiences in and of themselves were difficult, but they were, all right. The DMT was difficult. It actually wasn't very difficult during the ceremony, but the problem was a week later, I got a reactivation. So basically what they would call like an acid flashback, like a thing. I always heard it as like a joke. And I was like, what does that even mean? It happened.
Yeah.
So then I for about 8 or 9 months, not joking, I was here, and there was like a split consciousness of God, the universe, death, mortality, immortality. I mean, but like really terrifying. And there was 3 days. There were 2 days. There was 2 days where I thought I might have to kill myself because this is unbearable. And I didn't kill myself because I knew I'd be going into more of it.
Oh, whoa.
So
what a
I was like,
butter knife that is.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know what you call it. It lasted a couple days, but then it got like 0.5% better every day. But that's still
Damn, dude. That's terrifying.
Do the calculation. That's still about, it ended up being about, I thought it was 8 months that the DMT door was open. And there was shit like I couldn't watch the Apple TV screensaver, those nature shots, because there's a thing, you know, when somebody says, can you believe that mountain is 500,000 years old? And you go like, yeah, that's crazy. But you don't, nothing happened. I understood. That time scale that I said is like kind of can be weirdly constructive and healing in a way. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Because I had shit. I just had to do like a normal life. And I was like,
right.
I mean, again, it was bad for 2 days and then it got fine, but not fine. It got better. And then ironically, it was literally a year and a half later, I did an ayahuasca ceremony. I didn't do anything for a year. So I was like, I can't, I'm so far out. I can't.
Oh,
the irony is I'm a better person for it, meaning I'm more loving, I'm kinder, I'm happier, generally, I'm funnier, which is weird. Just a lot of, I have different, more positive attributes than I had. I'm less angry. I can wait things out mood-wise better, not perfectly, but like better. And so there's a lot of positive, but there was, you know, it was right on the cusp of worth it. Of like, I don't know.
Sure.
I like, if you ask me in a time machine, are you going to do that again? I would really pause a long time before I definitely was like, here we go. Like it was, it was beyond. I went on the DMT. I went to a place that Michael Pollan described as before the Big Bang.
Yes,
that was the DMT place I went to.
How to Change Your Mind, yeah.
And How to Change Your Mind, yeah. So that's where I went. But then a week later, I was kind of back there all the time, and here,
oh god,
and there a little. So that dissipated.
Was it like when you would wake up in the morning?
It was all the time.
Was it kind of like you'd? Oh god, like so you'd just be in Whole Foods, and then all of a sudden, bang, you're in like this kind of like you're walking.
No. It was always. It wasn't like I'm here and then I'm there.
God.
I was always a little. There was a while where when I'd fall asleep, I'd have that free fall feeling. Like for I don't know. That was probably every night for a few months, and then. But again, I got my brain recalibrated. So, like, what do you think is going to happen?
It sounds to me like you got what you needed.
Oh fuck. The teacher became the student.
That's twice.
All right. Well, good talking to you, buddy.
Yeah. No, thank you so much. And you know, listen, I know you're doing all this promo, and maybe this podcast will, you know, be the one that puts the algorithm
either this or
favorably upon your special.
Either this or Rogan. We'll see.
That's it. Hey, we're both bald, you know, jocks. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything, man. I really mean it. Of course. And we're not doctors. And, you know, I love you, and keep up the good fight, and stay happy.
Thanks, Mike.
Hope to see you soon.
Good talking about.
Peace.